Hello, Facebook world. I'm sorry I'm a minute late starting here. I'm having quite the day. Okay. So I am just going to wait for our lovely guest expert, Kaitlyn, to show up. I'm sure she's here probably more on top of it than I am. So say hello as you're jumping on. I am going to pop in the group and make sure that I am live. I'm sure that I am because I can see that somebody's watching. Oh my goodness, I'm like hiding out in my stairwell because I have a smoke detector that keeps beeping at me today and I didn't close the door. So I'm gonna do that so that I don't keep getting distracted by the beeping. So, okay, I see that I am live. Let's see if I can find Kaitlyn. Dun, dun, dun. Kaitlyn, just send me a message if you are struggling to. Oh, I love Angel was like playing us up here. Awesome, Kaitlyn, wherever you are. Do you know how to invite yourself? I don't know if I can invite you. I'm trying. Whoever is watching, drop me a comment, say hello so that I know you're here. And Kaitlyn, if you're struggling, just message me in Boxer. Let me see if I can. I just want to make sure it's not you that's like watching and not being able to get on. Hi, Natalia. I see one name. It doesn't always tell me the names. Okay, Kaitlyn, messaging. Sorry, just opening Boxer up on my computer. Kaitlyn, so just request. You just need to request to join the broadcast. Man. Facebook just really like went screwy with stuff. Sorry for all the radio silence, people. Just wondering. I'm gonna try and do it myself, Kaitlyn. So I see multiple people watching. Just say hello so that I know if comments are working. I haven't seen any comments yet. Oh, Kaitlyn. I just invite. Okay, Kaitlyn, you should be getting a notification. It just finally gave me an option to do that. Yay! Sorry for whoever's watching. Thank you for being patient with us. Yay!
I was trying to do it on my computer and I like could not figure it out. And I had to do it on my phone. And
yeah, I've never done it on the computer. That's a good point. I don't know if it's different. Probably. Everything's different on the computer. So confusing.
So, yes, I was watching you the whole time. I'm like, I'm here.
I figured you would be. I mean, I knew you were going to be on time. I was just like, I wasn't on time because I had back-to-back calls and I had to pee really bad.
Oh my God. But that's one of my things, right? Rather go to the bathroom before you get started in anything. Otherwise, your energy is going to be all distracted, even more than it would have been otherwise.
And that's why I went pee instead of ignoring it, because I was like, Kaitlyn will understand.
I have been sitting here with this timer and I set it until like 10 till we got started, and that was my bathroom break. I was like, whatever I was doing, like the alarm.
That's actually awesome. So I don't know if it's just me, if it's settings, like what the deal is. I can never see comments on video anymore, on live video.
Oh, I'm getting them. Kim is laughing at us.
See, and okay, so even on like my computer, I pulled it up and I'm not seeing comments, but maybe if I refresh the page. Okay, Kim is here. Hi, Kim.
I guess we should go ahead and get started since we had like technical.
Since we had this big lag. Don't worry, I'll like cut out the beginning of it later when I give you the video so that you don't have to have this.
Hi,
no,
Kim.
I still can't see the comments. I'm gonna ignore that. And guys, if you're in the comments, just keep dropping the comments, because the more you comment, the more people see us. And Kaitlyn will try to interact with you as much as she can without,
Oh yeah.
Totally losing track.
I'm not going to be typing. Like, I have to move over here to my my charger, which is why I was trying to use my computer. I can see comments. So if you're asking questions or just saying hi, I will be able to see you and answer time. So.
At least one of us can. I don't know what the deal is. Even when I go on other people's lives, they can't see my comments.
You're just special.
Yeah, apparently. Mm-hmm. So, okay, so let's get started. So I am so excited to talk to Kaitlyn today. What she is preaching this week has been like totally an issue for me. So I've been learning, I've been loving it. She has so much value to give. So there are so many things I could say about Kaitlyn. Kaitlyn and I have become great friends over the last several months. But maybe, like, for her sake, I will let her give herself a quick intro instead of it being like me giving the intro and it not being what you want people to know. So go ahead.
Hey, Heather. Both Heathers. Hi, Heather. Hi, Heather. Okay. Yeah, I will intro myself. So, hello, everyone. If you haven't seen any of my posts this week, or you missed the intro post earlier this week, I am Kaitlyn Signorelli. I am a confidence and mindset coach for ADHD women entrepreneurs. I run the Facebook group Confidence and Mindset for Determined ADHD Women Entrepreneurs. Go figure. And how I came to that is really, I did not know I was ADHD until about a year ago. Even when it was pointed out to me very young in high school, and I forgot about it because why not? And so I really just went through some really hard times. I'm very affected by my hormones. I knew that. I observed that in high school. Really just chalked it up to I was going to have to live with it. It was just going to be something that happened, and I wasn't really going to know why, what, or when. And it really greatly affected my moods. So much. Like, I don't know if anybody has heard of PMDD. Not the most fun. And going through high school, college, young adulthood, I really noticed these things about myself and my body and my mind that I was kind of just told I was overreacting. I was reading too much into it, and that really took a toll on my self-esteem. I thought everybody else was right. I thought that my own observations were somehow wrong because everybody else had the same advice for me, right? Try harder, just get a routine, just apply yourself, just try to stay focused, just set timers. I mean, timers work, but only when you remember what they're for. And when I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I felt stuck in an office, the same things every day. And I worked in, this is a really long intro, so thanks for listening. And I worked in a call center, so inbound calls. And it was expected that you take like 37 phone calls in a day. And for my empath, not knowing ADHD self, I was just exhausted and drained.
Yeah.
I could do it for about 2 weeks. I was like, all right, I got it. Everything's together. And then I'd like slide and I'd feel like everything that I just made progress on, I let slip.
Mm.
And that feeling of failure is all consuming. And I just didn't want to live that way anymore. I knew it didn't feel really aligned. I was looking for something else. And so I did a couple different shifts, one of which discovering I wanted to go into coaching. And several years, much more of the story later, finally found out that I had ADHD. And it was the last thing in my puzzle that just clicked of, oh my gosh, all of these observations were true. I was right. I was giving away my power to all of these other people, thinking that they knew more about me than I did. And thus, very quickly after that, I was just like, I have to help other ADHD women find their confidence. This is what I'm here for. And putting it together with what I've noticed about the lunar cycles and the hormone cycles and how they affect ADHD, that I can predict when I am more likely to get in fights with my husband. And I tell him, hey, this is coming up. And we go into that week knowing, like, okay, maybe we're going to be a little more agitated with each other, and we can stop it.
That's so
Because
powerful. That's so
my
powerful.
husband is very affected by the moon too. I call him a werewolf. And so when he's really nitpicky with me, it's become part of our inside joke. And we're like, oh, what phase is the moon in? We're like, yep, that makes sense. It's a full moon soon. Like, it's just, these things are real. And we've been told that they're too hippy dippy or woo woo, or like, that's not scientific enough. But the only science I need for myself is whether it works for me or not.
Yes. So much yes to that. So I'm starting to be able to see comments. I'm starting to be able to see people popping on. I'm really excited that so many people are showing up today. Say hello as you jump on, guys. The more comments we have, the easier it is for people to find us so that more people can see. And if you are watching the replay, don't forget to drop a hashtag replay. And hi Lisa, hi Angel, hi Heather, hi Tia. Like I see, oops, so many people. So super
sorry
excited.
My video is so bouncy. I'm holding my phone, which
mine is
very
propped on my
right
computer
now.
on my lap I'm like literally in my stairwell. So yeah. Don't even worry. So today I asked Kaitlyn to focus on, or this week, really, I asked Kaitlyn to focus on the lunar cycles. And that is because, and Kaitlyn can obviously explain it better than me, but I'm going to talk a little bit. So when women are on hormonal birth control, it changes your physical cycles. And so you can rely a lot more on the lunar cycle to be able to figure out what will work for you. Now, as I understand it, it still doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is on the exact same system. But I am super excited to be learning about this because I am on hormonal birth control. And so for me, I don't get a regular time of the month, right? And so for me to track it is going to be so much harder. So I've been loving all of the information. I know she has a ton more information on the hormonal cycle inside of her group. And today we are going to talk about how we can implement all of this stuff she's been teaching to create our own unique consistency code.
Consistency cycle.
Code. But I have
so
words.
So yeah, I'm just gonna dive right in. So consistency, I'll start with that one. It's something that we all know we need, something that we're all striving for. Mm-hmm. And yet it's one of the conversations that nobody wants to have. So even saying the word consistency automatically puts some people on edge, and they're going to feel really defensive because consistency is hard.
Yes.
Oh boy, do I know consistency is hard. Personal story. So of the ADHD side, consistency so hard. I knew what time I had to make it to work every morning. Consistency is hard.
Yeah.
Okay, fast forward again. So, because we have been lied to about what consistency actually is, and there are many types of consistency. And what I am focusing more on is the consistency that we feel that we have to have in our energy levels and our interests and the tasks that we are doing.
Right.
So it's not meant to be linear. I'm not a man, so I can't really speak to that. Maybe for men it is. But for me, as a woman, as a cyclical being by biology, by nature,
Mm-hmm.
I am designed not only as being a woman, but because of my ADHD as well, to be cyclical in my energy levels and in my interests. So consistency actually is a cycle. The code is that it is a cycle and it is unique to
Yes.
you. And this is what cycle syncing with the moon does, is it provides an overall structure to allow the ebb and the flow of what is naturally occurring in our bodies, what naturally tries to occur in our bodies if we let it. And we are so good at pushing through this hustle culture mentality, this produce in order to have worth mentality,
Yes.
that we don't know how to stop, reflect, and rest in a way that's actually rejuvenating. And I'm guilty of this too. I tried to get better in my practices with this too. We have done, as society, we have done such a good job of convincing ourselves that rest and rejuvenation can be shoved into 2 days at the end of the week. And that is not what it is designed for, especially when you personally, when your energy is approaching its max and you're ready and you're raring to go, that weekend isn't going to be relaxing for you.
No.
And what we end up doing on those weekends, living for the weekend, I hate that phrase so much, is we end up doing all of the things that we were too busy to do earlier in the week. It's not rest. We're just doing different things and calling it rest. So really, we don't know how to do it, which is why it's hard to think about taking a week or two, really, to slow down and really reflect on what worked for these past 3 weeks. What didn't work? What am I going to take forward? What did I like? What did I not like? And the time to process that is important. That's where we get our breakthroughs. That's where we get our downloads. That's when we understand and connect to ourselves. So when we're used to being in this do, go, 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 don't stop, don't think, have to do something, you're not actually able to get in touch with yourself to say, is this even working? Is this even what I want? Because we're so convinced that if we stop acting, we're going to drown. Like, not drown. What would be a better word? We're so convinced that if we stop working, that means that we don't have value anymore.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. It's so common.
the idea of like, if I stop, I'm not valuable. And that mentality, especially for moms, that the busier that you are, the better you are.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like, and I've actually been saying this for years, that like we need to stop saying, look at how busy I am, and like, look at, you know, having exhaustion be a status symbol.
I know. And it's not just our culture. I mean,
No.
I do not know the word for it, but like, I remember I went through a lot of international business classes, and they would talk about different cultures and different stories and things. And it was actually, it might still be, but revered in, I think, Japanese culture, that if you fell asleep at your desk, that was a sign that you were working hard, that you were really putting your energy into it, and it was looked at as a good thing. And it's like, oh my God, yeah, but they also have a word. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. Anybody who's interested, they can find out what the word for working so hard is. That it's a problem. People take their lives. But I
Yeah.
don't really want to get into like the downside of that. But I want to talk about the upside of recognizing this cycle, this pattern, and it's really just, it's emulating, us as females are emulating this cycle, the phases of the moon. And it's a period of growing and doing and bringing into fruition, and a period of letting go, kind of, you know, closing things up and coming home to rest, which also mimics the seasons, mimics life itself. So this is not just a concept that is unique to us females as like humans, but life as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you start to just expand on that. Yeah, being busy, I love what you said. Like, the status really is how busy you are. What about,
Except we are changing that, right?
yes,
And not just you and I, it's starting to become a thing. But I literally brag on my resting periods at this
yay,
point,
good, you
right?
should.
Like, this is where I'm like, this is what having this business, having this, like, the systems in place that I've got set up affords me. I get to take a break
Oh,
every
you did
damn
make that
day.
post.
And
Yeah.
I, you know, like, and then I also have like days where I'm just completely shut off, and that's okay too. And, you know,
Mhm.
and I talk about all of these things, not because I'm like, well, part of it's because I'm like, yeah, I'm awesome. And part of it is because people need to know it's okay. Right.
Yeah.
And so it is starting to become a part of the conversation that being busy isn't to be desired, and that we want to be instead effective with our time, which I think the brilliance of what you are bringing to the table is that it doesn't just have to be for entrepreneurs. It doesn't just have to be for moms. It doesn't just, you know, it's like you just said, it's literally the entire world is cyclical in this way. But also, even if you are working a 9 to 5 and you have to show up every week of the month, right? Despite being tired, despite, you know, your different pieces of your cycle, knowing what else you're going to fit around your workday, or even if you have some flexibility in your workday, choosing which tasks you're going to work on
Mhm.
at which point in the month, that's huge. That is so powerful. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, having to like do all of the pieces, choosing which ones to work on at the right time of the month is going to be hugely powerful. And that's why I'm like, I'm so excited. Everything she's been posting, I've been like, I love it. It's brilliant.
It's
And she's like,
basically,
are you okay?
it's basically a cheat code for which hat you are going to wear for your business
Yes. And I
at what
love that.
time.
And again, it doesn't just have to be for your business. For those of you that are watching that don't have a business, because I know a couple of you don't, um, like 100%
I use
apply
this with
this
my
in your
kids.
life, right? It
I use
doesn't
it
just
with my
have to be
kids.
business.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I use it in my relationship with my husband,
Yeah.
for us to understand. He's like, it's like, oh my gosh, you did the laundry all great last week. I was like, yeah, because I was ovulating last week. I'm like, I don't have the energy this week. I'll get to it. And like my kids
I love
also
that.
know this, like my son, and I'm raising them to know the words for these things. So
Yeah.
my son will come up to me and he's like, Mommy, is it your time? I'm like, so mommy's a little more tired today. And he's like, okay. Like,
That is
it's not,
amazing. That's
yeah,
really
it's not.
powerful. That's going to empower him as much as it empowers you.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's not just for your sake, right? Like, that's
Well, and my
fantastic.
daughter, for when she starts growing up and learning all of this, so that
Yeah.
I did.
I
What are
can't
we
wait
gonna
to
do now?
understand it enough to teach it to my girls. I'm very open with my kids about like the bodily stuff and everything. So this will just be like a whole new level. And my oldest will think I'm crazy, but it will still stick. My youngest will just like be raised with that,
That's,
right?
you
So
know, and that is so powerful as for us as moms to teach our daughters.
yeah.
I mean, and have our sons aware, but our
Yes.
daughters especially. I was not given this education. I mean, and probably a lot of us weren't too. I was not given this education when I was transitioning into like womanhood, adulthood, like whatever. I was told to expect like do your hardest every day,
Yeah.
rest when you can. But nobody ever expects you to actually take that time to rest. And so everything that I have learned from tracking my own menstrual cycle, from watching the moon and how it affects me, has all been through personal observation for a very, very long time before I actually accepted the knowledge that was coming to me and started realizing there is a whole world of humans out here who understand this. This is not, I'm not saying anything new, but it
No,
is
but it's
new
so
that it is
easy to
coming
like,
through me.
it's
Like,
been taboo, right? It's been like, especially in, I don't know if I should say Western culture, but I feel like that's been the thing, right? It's been like, we don't talk about that. Hush. Shh. That's why, like, when I was watching the live in your group, I was like, ah, you said period on a live video.
I know. Well, even, and I'll admit, even the first one, when I first started talking about it, first started stepping into accepting this knowledge that I have, that it is my role to share this, I even had a hard time saying it at first.
Yeah, it is.
And
It's because it's like built in,
yeah.
it's like beaten into us. Don't say that.
And now I'm owning it. I'm just like, whatever. It's like, here are the things that affect us as women, our individual hormone cycle and the lunar cycle. And for those of us with ADHD or anything else, I mean, I do not know bipolar very well, but bipolar is also extremely affected by the moon. And possibly, I'm not a doctor, not a scientist, possibly the reason why some of us feel manic during the full moon and kind of like depressed and like sluggish and during the new moon is that we're just extra sensitive to the light, the lack of light, and the gravitational pull. It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with it. It just means we notice it and we feel it in our bodies. And that is not anything to be ashamed of. It's something to actually embrace, lean into, and learn so that we can navigate with it.
I love that. I love the acceptance culture that's starting to come out, right? Like, and not just in this, but in everything. I love it. Okay, so let's like get really into it for the ladies who are watching, who are wanting to learn how they can apply it. And I'm like seeing all the comments now and I'm like, and then my brain's not working.
I know, you're like reading. I cannot really answer them as I'm going because I lose my train of thought.
Yeah. But So let's go with, first of all, like we've kind of already mentioned this, but everybody benefits from syncing up with the lunar cycle, right? It's not just women on hormonal birth control. It's not even just women. It's definitely not just ADHD women, right? So
yeah, no, women in general, I would go so far to say as even men would benefit, because it clearly affects them too. But for our sakes, for our niches, for our audiences, as women, getting back in touch with the cyclical nature is really going to help you find that alignment again within yourself. And I'll very quickly go over the phases of the moon here and kind of how you can expect to see that flow of your interest and your energy along with the moon. So typically you will hear the moon phases start with the new moon or the dark moon, where there's no light coming off of the moon. And this is the time that is said to be like the time to plant new seeds. So I like to say like new moon, new goals, or new moon, new start. And every new moon is a chance for you to start a new goal or to recommit yourself to the goal that you had set previously.
I like that.
And some people say that there's 4 phases. Some people say that there's 8 phases. I like to use 4 because it matches with the menstrual cycle. And it's easier for people to dive into when they're first starting. So I go new moon and then the waxing moon. And that is where the energy is building. The momentum is building. You're really acting on that intention that you had set. Your energy is starting to rise. You're starting to get pumped up about it. And about halfway through, when you hit the first quarter moon, this is when you might start noticing some frustration with staying committed. Not everybody, but often a lot of people do. I do. Where I'm kind of bored doing the same thing and I want a little switch. And that's where, for anybody who works with me, I go over my signature method of habit switching, because this is a way to stay connected to your intention, still work on it, but shift how you're doing it and the approach so that you're still working toward the same goal, but you get the novelty, you get the newness, you get something new and excited injected into it to keep you going.
And if you have ADHD, I have ADHD as well. Oh man, is that powerful, because it's just like, you just literally are bored. Like you're like, no, I don't want to anymore. And
it could be 100% working for you. And if you start getting bored with it, and y'all, I'm in the South. When you get bored with something, it doesn't mean that you hate your goal. It doesn't mean that all of a sudden you're not able to hit your goal. This is the chemical, whatever, I don't want balance, imbalance, whatever it is. This is your brain. These are the chemicals in your brain craving novelty and newness. This is not anything to beat yourself up over, anything to feel shame over. Anybody who even doesn't have ADHD, they will still hit these barriers and these walls. And God bless them if they have that brute force to just keep pushing through. Not everybody.
That was me. That was me until I met you, pretty much. Literally. Because I am so ADHD and I am so like, knowing this stuff about the cycles, I'm like, I cannot wait to like actually lay it out on paper. Like, yep, that's happening to me. Yep, that's happening to me, because I know it's true. But I have just forced my way through. I've just forced my way through for years. And that's exhausting. I'm really looking forward to not just forcing my way through all the time. Right? Mm-hmm. Like that's
when I was doing that, the level of exhausted that I would get. I remember, and this is when I was working full-time in the call center. I remember coming back and journaling and being like, just, God, give me strength to make it through this, because I can't do it on my own. But I know I'm going to have the energy in about 2 weeks. And I still hadn't put it all together that it was the cycles and everything. Like, I found it out in so many baby pieces. But I was just crying, like, every night, being out of alignment and pushing ourselves and pushing and pushing and pushing. Maybe it doesn't always end up like that, but for me, it did. And I needed a change, and I wanted a change, and I wanted to find a way that I could just exist with that. What were we talking about before that? I was going over the moon phases.
Sorry. I think I threw you off on that one. Yes, you were going over the moon phases. You were on the waxing moon.
Oh, yeah, I was talking about habit switching because I love it. I created that a very long time ago. I created habit switching before I even knew I was ADHD. So it's like perfect. I created it for myself, and now I have all of the words to support it.
Yeah.
And then going into the full moon, the harvest time, very easy to remember what the full moon is. And this is your time to shine bright. It's often associated with ovulation in the menstrual cycle, where your energy is at its peak. You are radiant. You're reflecting just as much light and energy as the moon is. Do podcasts, record videos, record trainings, if that is how your energy is feeling. Now, for some people, their menstrual cycle can be inverse. Or even slightly shifted. Mine has been inverse for a while lately, so I was actually, I'm about to say another word on your live. So I was actually bleeding on the full moon, and so that was not my time to be like super out there recording everything and showing up. That was more of a sacred time for me to observe, witness, produce very pinpoint, very slowly, very deliberately, because my energy was lower at that time, where I could still use the full moon because it is still reaping the rewards. But my energy, because my body was cycling differently alongside the moon. This is why the intersection of the two is very important, because they can shift. But for those who are not menstruating for any reason, pregnancy, menopause, any other health reasons, hormonal birth control. If you are on hormonal birth control and you bleed, it is not a real period. It's called breakthrough bleeding. Tripping over my words because I'm saying taboo words, right? And it is actually putting your body in this kind of chemical, this hormonal stasis, so you're not actually experiencing the up and down, the cyclical nature of what your hormones would normally be doing. So that is why you would default to the moon as your guide. And personal observation is everything. I can tell you about every phase of the moon, and I will, because I know I'm stuck on the full moon right now. But I can tell you about every phase of the moon and what you should be feeling, and what you are most likely going to be interested in doing. But that's just a guide. It's a guide, like anything else. The one thing that does not change is the intentions of the moons, that the new moon is calling in, the full moon is releasing, and the transition periods. So those will always be the same, no matter where your hormone cycle falls along with the lunar cycle.
Battery's dying. I'm so curious to do this for myself, because I am on like a 3-month cycle for bleeding. So I don't, for like way too long to be able to go off of that. So it's, for me, it's going to have to absolutely be measured around the moon cycles. And this is just so fascinating. Absolutely love it. I still see more people like kind of coming and going. So guys, if you are watching live, drop a hashtag live, say hello, talk to us. We are having a blast as usual whenever we talk. And don't forget to drop a hashtag replay on the replay. And she is about to move on to the waning moon. Look at me go.
And so the waning moon is another transitional period. This is, or transitional phase, I should say, because period is a different word. But this is another transitional phase. From the action, the being present, now is the time to start slowing down. Not cold turkey. Like, and that's another adjustment for people too. It's not just a light switch, y'all.
One or the other, yeah.
I say y'all all the time. I grew up in Georgia in the US, so I will always say that word. Transitional periods are important because it limits the shock to our system. So we actually have time to process, okay, I'm taking some of these things off of my plate. Maybe you're delegating things out more. Maybe you're just straight up, and I would recommend expecting the quantity of what you're doing to be less.
Yeah.
So this is the time to wrap projects up, bring things to a stopping point. You don't have to be done with them, but just get them ready. You're going to I'm trying to think of a metaphor, and I'm usually really quick with them, but the only thing I can think of is you're playing a game of Monopoly. It's the end of the night. You're not going to finish anytime soon. So you just kind of get the board set up and you'll come back to it later.
I love it.
Actually, that one was pretty good. So, and then there's the first week of really slowing down. And then there's the second week of really just reflecting. This is the time to journal. This is the time to review your processes. This is the time to clean up shop, organize your files, throw things away that you don't need. Anybody who accumulates a lot of papers on their desk, this is the time to straighten them up. Put those sticky notes into a bigger file, put them in Trello. Queen of sticky notes. I know a queen of sticky notes. She is brilliant with her sticky notes, and she still has to stay on top of them. And so this gets us ready to start again with the new intention and the new goal for the coming new moon.
Well, and I love being able to be prepared ahead for the possibilities, right? Like that's a big piece of what I do too, but I do it in such a different way. And this is just such like switching it to look at it in a whole new light. And I love that, you know, knowing that when I'm in a high energy phase, I should be prepping for a phase where I'm not going to be high energy. That is groundbreaking right there, because when I'm in a high energy phase, I always think I'm going to be high energy forever.
I know. We're so prone to that. So many people are so prone to that. And I think it's because we're not aware of the cyclical nature of it. We're just like, oh, we did something right. We cracked the magic formula. Now I have all of this energy and it's going to stay here forever as long as I keep doing everything exactly the same. And then you keep doing everything exactly the same. And like a week later, you're like, why is it so exhausting?
Why do I suck so bad? And why can't I just stick to anything? And beat yourself up.
We take that so personally too. It's like we think we did something wrong and we didn't. It's just the information we were operating off of was incorrect. It was incomplete. Yeah,
that is so powerful. That is so powerful. I'm going to abandon my computer and I'm gonna go to where there's a charger, even if we can hear the beeping, so that I don't die like partway through our live, because that would suck.
Girl, I'm like this my board.
So yeah, okay, so that's awesome. I love the like learning about the lunar cycles. I'm sorry, just plugging in here. Okay. And of course, my other questions that I had for you are on my computer. So
What did I tell you? It was who would it benefit? We talked about that. When does it not work?
We did
Okay,
kind of talk about that. Yeah,
a little bit about, and it goes into the third point too, which is it is very important for you to take this information in, but then take time to observe and track yourself through a couple cycles so that you know what your expression is in these different phases.
Yeah.
I mean, even if it is the case that someone is on hormonal birth control, that your body is still going to go through shifts and changes. There are going to be times where you're going to feel more tired. And it is about connecting with your body, connecting with your just inner knowing of what are you interested in right now? What sounds good to do? What type of tasks sound good to do? Is it the creative task? Or is it the I'm going to bulldoze through my to-do list, go check, 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 and get that all done? Because those are two different energies.
Yeah.
Or is it I want to do absolutely nothing and talk to no one and be left alone in my world? Or do I want to stand up? This one will be mine. I am not afraid of public speaking. Like, is this the time where I will stand up in the middle of like a public walk path and just be like, hi, everybody, this is me, and this is what I do?
I get you.
Like,
I get you on so many levels with that because I'm the same way. I'm not scared of public speaking, but there's times where I'm just like, I don't wanna. Like, and then there's times where I'm like, everybody listen.
Yes. And people, I think this is another thing too. Just like personality tests are useful to know where you're coming from most of the time, it's not that like end all be all.
Yes.
So what I have learned, I mean, my personality test did back this up. I took them multiple times and I switched between, like the Myers-Briggs, I switched between I and E, which makes so much sense, like introvert and extrovert.
Oh, okay.
And it makes so much more sense to me now because sometimes I am very extroverted and sometimes I'm very introverted. My base is introverted. I recharge alone. But there are times where I am just like, I want attention. I am also not afraid to say that I want attention when I want attention. Another thing that women are uncomfortable with is like, well, I don't want to take people's attention. I want to be, excuse me. Like, no, you are allowed to show up and take up space and be you.
You're
Unapologetically. You do not have to say sorry. Yeah. And since I didn't really touch on this when I went through the phases of the moon, the ADHD symptoms and how they correspond. So and I'll start with the full moon because that's the one that I enjoy talking about the most with the ADHD symptoms, is if anybody saw, I posted an article that I had come across that studied sleep patterns in people around the lunar cycle. It was done by scientists at the University of Washington. And they were able to conclude that regardless of access to electricity, people on average went to bed later and got less sleep 3 to 5 days up to and including the full moon.
Right.
Which
that's all Yeah.
It's amazing. I'm so
Mind-blowing.
glad that somebody like finally found that, because it makes sense. And anecdotally, a lot of people will just say, "Oh, my sleep's crap around the full moon." I mean, and it makes sense to me because it's bright and it's light, and I like dark and whatever. And so there's more going on than just the light, but just the sleep impact alone on anybody, but let alone like ADHDers, lack of sleep increases irritability. It makes it more likely that you're going to forget, makes it more likely that you're going to feel and get overwhelmed, makes it more likely that you will be more impulsive. And just with the buzz of the energy, oh, fine, I'll go there. I'll be me. I will be unapologetically me. The buzz of the energy of the full moon, it just sets people on edge. So if we're already ultra sensitive to the light in general, we're already sensitive to a lack of sleep, combined with the lack of sleep and then the buzz of the energy itself. I mean, this is not just from my own experience. I mean, my husband works in a job where on the full moon, I mean, it gets crazy. And there's stories about like working in the ERs and full moons. Moms, if you've ever noticed your children just kind of bounce off the wall crazy, more crazy than normal during a full moon.
Yeah. Or, I mean, same, like with the running a day home has been the same thing, right? I know that all of a sudden they're all going crazy and I'm like, what is in the water, right? And then I'm like, is it a full moon?
What
and
is going
a
on?
lot of the time it is. Yep.
And the study itself, they couldn't find causation, which I just think is interesting because I don't know if we're ever going to be able to know like what caused what with that. But they also noticed a secondary trend that they didn't really go into in the research, but they hypothesized that it could have been related to the gravitational pull of the moon. It's not just the light, but it is also the gravitational effect on the planet. The moon controls the tides.
Yeah.
We are, what, 70% of water? How, this might be divisive, how arrogant would we have to be to imagine that a huge gravitational pull that controls the entire oceans on our planet wouldn't have an effect on us?
Of course it does. Exactly. Yeah, Sharon, preschool, that's just it. My day home is all preschool kids too. And it is like such a huge effect when they're still like napping age kind of thing. It is like they go nuts. They just go nuts. They're awful. They don't listen. They're wild. Like,
and it's so interesting that this time period of just this, what can be considered chaos and agitation, if we're not aware of it, we don't know it, is accompanied by that boost in optimism and like I can do anything kind of power.
Yeah.
And remembering that it doesn't last forever, so we can come down on the other side. It'll all even out. Your kids, like, you'll love them again. Not that you ever didn't.
Well, I think but being aware that there's a reason for their behavior and they're not just being little shits, pardon my language, like that awareness also allows for more acceptance, right? You're able to accept them for being who they are. And you're able to accept yourself for being who you are. If you're all of a sudden like this crazy witch and you're like, what is the matter with me? What is like, why is this stuff coming out of my mouth? Well,
like getting overwhelmed more, plus the kids are going through their own thing. Couples. My word.
Combined, it all makes it makes so much sense. And just having that awareness just opens you up to being able to accept it and being able to move forward with it instead of having these days where you're like, the world's against me and I hate the world. And like
really learning that, just being aware, even if what I'm saying to you sounds like what the frick is she talking about? Just, I challenge you to just observe it for a
Yeah.
cycle and see if you notice anything. And if
Yeah.
you do, I would say you owe it to yourself to explore that. Because
Yes.
if there's anything that we can do to set ourselves up for success, it's going to be understanding ourselves on a better and deeper level.
Yeah, of course. And okay, just realizing like how long we've been on now for. It's almost been an hour. So let's wrap it up quickly, but what I would love for you to talk about just a little bit as quickly as possible is how you help other people figure this out, because I know for myself, especially as an ADHD woman and a mom, and life is crazy, and a business owner, it's so easy to get off track, to forget to record stuff, to forget to like actually track it so that you can gain this awareness of yourself. And yet it doesn't matter that I desire to know it and that I want to know it. And so you have come up with an amazing solution for that. So talk about your solution so that people can work with you if
Yes,
desired.
absolutely. So I'll start by saying when I got serious about figuring all of this out and connecting all of the I'm glad we're wrapping up because my tongue is
Yeah.
so tight. It took me a year of really being serious to figure it all out on my own because I didn't have that extra accountability. I mean, and I was even working with coaches at the time, but not specifically for this. This is something different that I was figuring out for myself. And I'd forget. There were probably times I forgot for like a period of a month or two, and I'm just like, oh, all right, I'll pick it back up on the next cycle. That's one of the really cool things about it. It repeats all the time. You forget,
Yes.
you pick up right back on. Like, so ADHD friendly. And what I do is I have an advanced program. I haven't talked about it publicly yet, but for anybody who is already experienced with cycle syncing, knows their menstrual cycle, knows the lunar cycle, really is just wanting to work on the application and knowing it on a deeper level, I work with those individuals for a period of 3 months. And if anybody is interested in that, comment, DM me, just say advanced, and I can start talking to you about that. It is a higher price tag on that one because it's 3 months in total. The beginner program, my cycle syncing 101, cycle syncing 101, love it. It's just like a class. It is a hybrid one-to-one course and coaching experience. So with this, 6 weeks is enough to cover a lunar cycle, plus a little extra in case anybody is on a longer menstrual cycle. And even if not, if we're just using the lunar cycle, it's a couple more weeks with me to apply everything that you have learned. So you're not just one cycle and then off on your own. There's so much that can be put into it. I love it so much. And with that, it includes 2 strategy calls, one in the beginning and one at the end, to make sure that you get set up so that you know what to do with all of this information you just learned. 4 trainings to really go in depth on all of the phases of the moon, all of the phases of the menstrual cycle, and what it means for you and your ADHD. And then there's 6 weeks of Voxer support in that, access to me Monday through Saturday, questions, comments. Is this related to the moon? I'm feeling this way today. What's that all about? Me asking questions, coaching you through it, figuring out everything that could be impacting you so that you don't have to filter through all of the data on your own. Because there's a lot in our days. It's a lot.
Well, and you know,
And
like I plan to be in this program eventually. You know everything that's kind of going on in my life right now and why I'm not doing it right now. But I am actually crazy excited to be in that program eventually because I'm like, I know myself. I know that I won't figure this out myself for a really long time, that it will just take so long. And I can see the value in it and I can see the power behind it of how it's going to propel me forward. So I'm just like, I can't wait. I cannot wait to do it. I'm so excited.
and plus, not only is it just I'm working with you to track through a cycle and observe along with you what's going on in your unique experience about it, but you're getting all of my knowledge from my experience, from what I've read, from what I've studied, so that you don't have to take the time to do that all yourself. You have somebody that you can just ask the questions who's read the like 3 or 4 books that I had to piece that information from together to deliver it to you. And all of that. So the 2 strategy calls, the 4 trainings, the 6 weeks of Voxer support is only $400. And I am the US, so it's US dollars. It's only $400. I mean, for something that could set you up for understanding how to construct your life, your relationships, family or romantic, motherhood, how to deal with yourself interacting with your children, how you can even explain this to any teenage daughters, passing this wisdom on through to them.
Oh man, like
I'm
so
getting
much
goosebumps
power
talking about
and so much. I know. Actually, I get goosebumps listening to you about it. I'm not even kidding. I'm not exaggerating that. Love Kaitlyn to death, but this program gets me excited and it's not even my program. So I'm like, I love it. Heather says, wow, I know. It's like, it's incredible. The ripple that will come out of that. Right. And then if you want to take it a level further afterwards, you can go into the program,
it's
right? But that is
it's
awesome.
designed to be a step up for anybody who's gone through the beginner program to go into an extended one, because like I said, it took me a year to really sit down and figure this out, and I was excited about it. That was me excited about it. Just with the rest of life going on, I allowed other things to come and be a higher priority. But this, having somebody who is asking you, be like, oh, how did I feel today?
Yes. Well, even there was multiple conversations inside of this group that I had this week where somebody would say, one is, I don't know if she's a trauma coach per se, but she talks to like trauma and like coming out of abusive relationships, I think. But she was talking about like journaling on when you're having a trauma response. And I was like, that's great. But then I also know myself, and I know that when I have a trauma response, I'm not necessarily going to remember to go back and journal about it. And it's the same thing where I'm going to have these, you know, different emotions, different energies, all of that stuff. But if nobody's asking me about it, I'm not going to remember to record that data, and I'm not going to be able to see the big picture so that I can figure out what's going to work best for me. I just, like 100%, I guarantee you it would take me at least a year if I did not forget about it completely, if I tried to do it on my own. And it's not because I'm not excited about it. You can see that I'm excited about it. Like,
that's what happened. It's like, oh man, I forgot to do that all week.
Yes. And that's the power of having a coach. Like, I love having a coach. I don't think I'll ever be without a coach again. And that's why I love coaching. But to have a coach for something like this, where it's like, okay, what were you feeling today? How, like, what kind of situations came up? And let's dig into why. And then let's apply that to the rest of your life and how it can impact you is like,
yes, there are one-offs, and I can help identify the one-off situations in that as well, because sometimes, unrelated to anything else other than whatever, you stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning, your next couple days are going to be kind of hard to figure out where you are energetically because of the sleep that is why it's important to run it through another person as a filter, because I can look at the bigger picture and I can see what happened here. And we can get a weekly trend if things like that happen. And if that happens a lot, it's going to take longer to get your baseline.
Yeah.
And this is about figuring out your baseline, just a general guide. And it doesn't 100% commit you to have to feel a certain way at any given time.
No.
It is about learning to flow with it.
I love that.
And for anybody who is interested in accountability and maybe doesn't want to do a full program yet, or that's just not your jive, you don't really want to go into all of the cycle stuff, but you do want somebody to hold you accountable and maybe understand that sometimes your energy is going to be on and sometimes your energy is going to be off, but you still want that encouragement. I also do have an accountability group, and I do individual and I do the group as well. And I hope Brianna doesn't mind me sharing that she is in my accountability group as well, and she has been for a couple months. Would you mind saying a couple things about that?
No, for any of you who know me or who have worked with me, you know that accountability is a big part of what I do. I hold you accountable, right? Like, this is a big thing, a big selling feature for me as a coach, that I'm like, we're going to set up our goals, and then I'm going to sit there and be like, did you do it? Did you do it? Are you done? And the problem is that it is never the same to hold ourselves accountable as it is to hold somebody else accountable. So I have that as like my main selling feature as a coach. And yet I absolutely needed somebody to hold me accountable. And so being inside of that container, so she's got, it's an all Voxer thing. So it's off of Facebook, which is a big thing for me because I'm able to get, off of the social media while I do it. So I'm not getting distracted on there. But it's 3 times a week check-ins. You set your goals. You say, this is what I'm doing. And, you see these posts all the time on Facebook. You see them like, what are your goals for this week? And they're fantastic. It makes you think about it, but nobody ever follows up with them. And with this, she follows up with you. And I love, like, just last week, it was like, okay, I have these things that have to get done. And she was like, have you done it yet? Have you done it yet? Did you do that?
It was so much
fun.
Come
on, like, get your butt in gear. And it was like, because I totally didn't want to, but I had to. And just knowing that somebody was going to be asking me was super powerful, right? And so it kind of gives me a little bit of insight into, like, why people love what I do, but it also gives me, like, it totally helps me to keep myself on track. So I mean, I'm going to be sticking with the accountability thing for sure. There's always something to be held accountable for. I love it. And it's such a low cost option, so that it's not something that's like stressing you out financially to have, but just to have somebody like there in your corner, cheering you on and checking in on you to make sure you're not giving up on your goals, right? Like, so powerful, so powerful. I love your programs.
That one,
clearly a fan.
I'm so glad. And that one, what was so interesting, maybe this will be the last thing we talk about because we've gone on a while.
Yeah.
But what was so interesting, so freaking interesting with the ladies in my accountability group, I was able to watch them over the span of, like, even the first month of them being in this container, of knowing and seeing when everybody was on fire and going, and then they're like, oh, my energy is just not here. I can't keep going like I was the week before. And I'm like, that's normal. That's normal. And I knew that it was normal, and I knew I was watching their cyclical experience. And it's just more proof of everything that I have been saying here. Knowing ourselves, the awareness, being able to take that guilt and shame out of, I'm not as productive as I was last week.
Yeah.
No, you're not supposed to be.
No, and that's why you're like, I mean, both of these things fit really well together, right? Because you've got the accountability to keep track, which is like that's huge. But also like I loved when you told me that, when you told me like I've been watching everybody in this group and it's like everybody at the same time doing these things. I thought that was fascinating. I thought that was so fun. And it's totally like a little bit of market research for you, a little bit.
Well, and I didn't tell you guys. I
No.
didn't tell you guys to expect this. I was working on the Cycle Syncing 101 still on my drawing board, witnessing. So I didn't tell you guys to expect this. This is something that I was even able to witness in you, just like as an observer. It was so cool.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay, so if somebody is interested in one of these programs that you have, how can they get a hold of you? How can they find you other than in my group? Because I mean, obviously you're in my group too, but
yes. The fastest way to get a hold of me is just going to be, feel free to send me a friend request. First of all, don't care. Go for it. Message me, DM me, and you can just say, you know, I saw you in Brianna's group. I want to hear more about cycle syncing. I have my own Facebook group. I mentioned that at the beginning. Confidence and Mindset for Determined ADHD Women Entrepreneurs. Go ahead and join the group. You can check out the free 2-module course that is up in Guide 1 of my group if you want to check that out first, because I do go over the menstrual cycle that I did not talk about here in the group this week.
yeah.
And DM me is the best way to get that conversation started. I am not a high sales pressure person. You can say no to me if it is really not a fit, or you don't have the means to do it right now, and you can say, I love this, I will get back to you. Just like Brianna said, she's like, I know I want to do it. I'm waiting until the time is right for me.
Yeah.
Good.
My life is
I believe in divine timing. So, yeah. DM me, ask me questions, see if it's a good fit. I'm more than happy to have that conversation. And the feedback that I have gotten just from the free course that I did in my group has melted my heart. I have had a like public speaker, certified mindset business coach tell me that I have been able to release shame for her. I have had a multiple 6-figure business entrepreneur tell me that I have given her a new way to look at her schedule and release shame and guilt around using different methods to keep herself going for her goals, my habit switching.
That's incredible.
It's the shame and the guilt that women do not need to carry around with them. This is part of how we start to let that go. And I am so honored to be a part of what I am witnessing in these women's lives, of just having them share their story with me, of that they gave themselves rest and that they're not feeling bad about it because they knew their energy was low, and they're not borrowing from tomorrow to get through today that's just going to catch up with them. This is how we end burnout. This is how we stay in love with our businesses for longer than 6 months or a year. Okay.
I love it. I love it. We are at like an hour and 15 minutes. Kaitlyn is going to drop any links she's got in the comments for you ladies. And I hope you've all really enjoyed this week so far. She's still got a couple days left, so make sure you engage on her stuff. Join her group. She is fantastic. She's a great person, a great coach, and a good friend of mine now, after months and months of working together. So yeah. And thank you, Kaitlyn, for taking the time out to come and talk to us about this today. This is a lot of free value. So, I mean, soak it up, ladies, because it's amazing.
Yeah,
so
it's life-changing. It is. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure I am so excited. I'm going to go eat my dinner with all of the enthusiasm from this. So thank you all.
Awesome.
I hope to see you in my group. I would love to be your coach. I would love to guide you through learning your cyclical experience and what this can do for you.
Yeah.
So just DM me if you're ready. If you just have some questions, go for it. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate you all so much.
Awesome. Okay. Have a great day, ladies, and I will see you all around the internet.